Well, hi there, my name's Karen Campbell and I'm a little bit obsessed with mixed media. I'm not gonna lie. Today I want to share with you my favorite way to do collage for all my mixed media art projects, as well as a lot of my art journaling art projects. I'm going to be using scrapbook paper, and I want to show you and talk to you and do a project with you that just illustrates why it's such a great go-to collage material. So if you're ready, meet me at your art table, and if you have any scrapbook paper, go grab some, because we're going to play. Let's go. Oh, I should also add that today we're doing a background. And if you have a lot of fun using your scrapbook paper to make a background, join me here next week because we're going to be doing a foreground using the same scrapbook paper. So subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again at your art table every single Friday for new videos. So before we get crafting, which will just be like 30 seconds, I just wanted to talk about why scrapbooking paper. But I just want to show you the difference between collage background made with scrapbook paper versus collage background made with a different kind of paper, and just show you the effects and why I really like scrapbook paper. So this is a project I did for my Mixed Media Magic book, and I used napkins for this. So I just want to show you the texture that you get from this. It's very bumpy and wrinkly, okay, and that's something that I enjoy, but it may not be something that you enjoy. Okay, so you see all that texture. So that can be unwanted texture sometimes. Just depends on, it's totally personal preference. This is another project I did for that book. And as you can see, this is tissue paper. And as you can see, so this is translucent, so you can see through it. So I love this effect. She's actually the cover girl for that book. And there's a very little texture because it's really thin. So you can see a little bit of bumps. See the paper, when you hold it at an angle in the light, you can see it's much, much less textured. But it still does give you some. So that's just broadening your horizons if you're new to the world of flat background collage and what it can be used for. So that's very different from the napkin girl. So there's a lot of different materials that you can collage with. Now this girl, I used scrapbook paper. And I use scrapbook paper a lot because I have a lot of it just left over from my old teaching days when I used to teach kids. And this is, because scrapbook paper is, you know, pretty substantial. I don't need to explain scrapbook paper. I'm sure you all know what it is, but you can buy it in these big packets at your craft store. And if you might be coming from the world of scrapbooking and might have a ton of this already, so which is amazing because personally, this is my favorite collage material that I prefer to work with. And I like to rip it off in these kind of like palm size chunks, and I put it around. And what I love about it is that you don't get any wrinkles pretty much at all. If your pieces are small enough, you can really control like the amount of bubbles and wrinkles that you get. It tends to not do that. So you have a really nice painting surface that you can paint on top really well. However, it doesn't mean that it's boring, like it's not textureless. So as you can see, if I turn it this way, you can see very subtly the shapes of the collage pieces underneath it. And this is what I am obsessed with because it adds a level of sophistication to your backgrounds. And it's hard to pinpoint because it's so subtle, but basically when you see this piece in person, it's just like, whoa, like what are these? What is this? You know, it's hard to imagine how these pieces came to be if you're new to this piece and looking at it. And it doesn't disrupt the plane of your surface, again, because you're not getting those wrinkles and bubbles the way that you can get with napkins and a lot of other materials. So it's amazing because it makes very rich, complex backgrounds because of the subtle texture. I am obsessed with this technique. I've done lots of girls, and it's really good for a lot of different reasons other than just the upside of having a smooth and being great at its collageness. You can use scrapbook books for the color selections, the pattern selections. It can set the mood for your piece. These were all kind of 70s inspired pieces. So many huge advantages to using scrapbook paper for your mixed media canvases and art journaling pieces. So let's do one today. I'm going to show you my exact process. I also have to add that this works amazing with wood panels as well. If you have a wooden canvas, this is perfect for that substrate, absolutely perfect. And I also love to use canvas panels as opposed to a pre-stretched canvas because this is so tough, and when you collage, you add a lot of pressure to your piece a lot of times. So this can kind of withstand anything, and they're also super cheap. So even if you use whatever you have, and I really do, if you really do have scrapbook paper at home, I totally would love to see you do this project with me. We're just gonna do a simple background. You can do the foreground however you like. And then again, next week, I'm gonna be showing you how to use scrapbook paper to make a really cool foreground project. And I have a freebie coming for you, a body template actually as well. So if you were gonna put a figure on top, and so that will be looking forward to that. When you buy if you don't have one already, and maybe you have a bunch and you just hadn't thought of it this way, is that when you buy a scrapbook book paper, all of the papers are gonna kind of go together, either the style of them or the colors or the patterns, or like they market this in a certain way where they're almost like branded, like, right, this is the basic stack, so all of these are basic patterns. But you notice flipping through that they all are coordinating in some way. So use this to your advantage, and if you just pick the pieces of paper that come from the same stack, chances are really, really good that they're gonna go together in some way. And so that's the biggest cheat to using scrapbook paper, and the biggest benefit is that you can just grab your sheets right from one place. I like this color. Ooh, that's really pretty. All right, when choosing patterns, here's another little trick too. When choosing patterns, you wanna choose patterns that are different from one another. So if you have, here's a perfect example. See how the colors are repeating too? So I have the green and the brown, and then this one has the green and the brown together. So these perfectly match. You know, this one ties these two together. But this process is made so super easy if you're just working out of the same book. I've used this one a bunch of times. It's like an old friend looking back at me when I do that. Now I have to be careful. I don't want to necessarily bring in new patterns. So this book seems to be divided into like color sections. So I'm going to keep within my color section. I like to pick 3 to 4 colors from the same book. It's good if you choose colors that have, not colors, patterns. If you're choosing patterned paper, and most scrapbook paper is patterned paper, to choose scales that are different. So this is dots, this is plaid. This is, what is this called? I forget. I totally am like drawing a blank. So you have different scales. So these are teeny tiny dots. These are big florals. See how they're going opposite each other, right? This is busy, busy. These are tiny. These are all, you want them to be super different. So when you have your 3 to 4 pieces picked out, you want to start tearing them into palm size hunks, which is very easy to do. And it's good to kind of preserve the corners and some of the straight edges for a very important reason, which I will show you. So you're gonna just slice and dice these up. And you do that with all your pages. Okay, so why do I do palm size? Because if you do them too small, you're collaging for the rest of your life. If you do them too big, you get a lot of bubbles and it's harder to manipulate. Step 2, you need to choose an adhesive. My favorite is matte medium. I just did an entire video on the difference between Mod Podge and matte medium and matte gels for the adhesive layer. So I will put the link to that in the description box if you're wondering why I'm doing matte medium and not Mod Podge. That video explains it for days. And we actually do a real-time entire little canvas mixed media project in that video as well. else. All right, so now I'm going to alternate. I'm going to alternate scrapbook papers as I go around my canvas. And I'm putting a hearty amount of matte medium on top and under to seal these. The biggest problem that people have is they don't use enough. And if you get a chunk of paper that doesn't have matte medium on it or whatever adhesive you're using, you get this big, ugly, nasty bubble under your paper and it does nothing. It's just kind of yucky. So don't do that. Use lots and lots and lots. I literally pour it on, as you can see. Keep rotating the papers as I go. So we just keep alternating. That's why you need about 4 sheets to cover all of it. And you just make sure you don't have, it's kind of like a fun game, but it's super easy, is don't make 2 of the same pieces of paper be touching each other if you can help it. And I usually do my edges first. I build it just like a puzzle. So like tuck that aside. All right, now you can just like randomly start filling in the middle spaces. Go, and I will zoom out so you can kind of see the whole page. I'm like soaking this the whole time. You really like use an absurd amount. I hate to say it, but oh, it's true. You start getting very undesirable effects. And get it all even. Lots and lots and lots and lots, because then it just makes the most uniform surface for painting on afterwards. Yes. And then you can, oh, it looks so good. And then you take a heat gun. I always use a hair dryer and then dry this all with your hair dryer. It takes about 2 minutes. And then we'll be ready to add some little bit paint for the background. All right, so the next step in creating a background with scrapbook paper is to pick paint colors that exist in the scrap paper pieces that you chose. So in order to like play it super safe, you can just stick with the colors that you have. Now obviously I chose there's really only like 2 colors. I have brown and green. All right, again, the color palette isn't the sexiest color palette in the whole world. And then yeah, I'm just gonna show you how I would pepper this with a little bit of paint for the background. I'm gonna be doing a girl based on this reference by an artist on DeviantArt, and because I'm doing a fantasy month this month in my Mixed Media Society. And for more information about my Mixed Media Society, it's a membership club where I give out 2 new lessons every single month. We're doing a dragon, a ginormous dragon. And then I'm actually gonna make this girl into an elf. What I like to do is distribute a little bit of paint around the edges. I have to mix this. This is really old paint, so I'm gonna mix it with my matte medium. I'm thinking I might even sponge it on. So maybe you can also get different effect if you wet the sponge. So this is a dry sponge, so we'll kind of see what happens. But again, you can kind of, it lets you control how much paint is being applied to if you're going this way. Oops, I just got green paint on my white light. Nice. So the shaky cam was not cool as I was pouncing all that paint around. So I'm just going to put this in time lapse because I think it's easier for you to see, and you don't need to see every single stamp in real time. I think you can totally get the idea. So I like that this ties in the colors. And it also kind of diminishes like the very clear delineation that you get between the scraps of paper. So it ties them together into a more unified background. So first I just went in with green, and notice I'm keeping the middle center part totally open because that's where my foreground is gonna go. And I put dark brown at just the tips of each edge at the triangles to reinforce that whole frame effect that I really, really like. And then I thought you could see kind of what I like to do on my canvases when I'm doing backgrounds like this. I really am setting it up for a really strong foreground. I know a lot of artists, mixed media artists, who do a lot of collage, and their end result is really, really beautiful, and they use scrapbook paper. But then, you know, there might be there's some paint on there, and there's some stenciling and some stamping, and it creates a really nice layout. I, however, like to really keep the backgrounds actually pretty simple because the magic for me personally is all in the foreground. I'm really setting myself up to have a background for a really striking, you know, subject that goes in front. It could be an animal. I love doing whimsical animals, and I love doing whimsical girls. So this is a real-time lesson. It's a couple hours long that my Mixed Media Society students will receive. But I wanted to show you here just the process, just start to finish, like, you know, basic beginner background all the way through the whole process, just to kind of see what you can do and open up a world of possibilities. And maybe you weren't thinking super big, and maybe you never intended to put a foreground subject on. And I hope this video inspires you to maybe give it a try, or think about your collages in a new way, because really the sky's the limit with this stuff. That's actually gray gesso, which you can make by mixing gray paint with white gesso. It's literally store-bought gray colored. I'm using a Stabilo All pencil, which is one of my very favorite art tools. It's a super water-soluble pencil. If you know me at all, you know my obsession with it. And then I'm going in with just flesh-colored paint to make her face. Now, this is my like classic, what I call my Mixed Media hamburger system. I've done a lot of videos here on YouTube about my hamburger system. I've taught it all in its entirety here on YouTube. And then what I do is I have pretty advanced projects that then I launch and give to my students over at Awesome Art School. So this is just an example of some of the things that we would be doing. But again, I wanted to show you and inspire you to like do more with your collage backgrounds. It doesn't have to be fancy, super hard one like this one, but you can just put like a simple flower in the center, or maybe you put a quote in the center, or maybe you try a little animal in the center, and like start thinking of using collage as setting the stage or the scene to something far more impressive that will kind of sit on top. I do have to say, next week I'm super excited because we are going to be using scrapbooking paper for the foreground, like I said, and we're going to be doing these cute figures and making clothes with our scrapbook paper. So I really hope you'll come back next Friday and join me for that, because I'm going to be giving away a PDF that has the girl on it, so you can cut it out, and this whole surprise plan. So I hope you'll subscribe and come back to me, because we are going to have a lot of fun. So a way that I love to do shading with my Mixed Media girls is to use gelatos over the acrylics. Acrylic blending and making skin tones is actually super difficult, and it's easy once you get the hang of it, but it's really hard to teach. And I really like my students to be successful and get a lot of quick wins, and gelatos are the secret to letting everybody get a quick win when they're doing their art projects. Now, her left eye there is super wonky. It will get fixed eventually. Takes me a while. The beautiful thing about the Stabilo All pencil is that if you saw me, I just used a wipe and I just completely erased all my lines. It's so water soluble. If you take a wet anything, paper towel, piece of toilet paper, or Lysol wipe, you can actually erase 100% of your lines. And that's why I usually use it as a drawing base for my projects. I also use it for this example right here where I'm doing the snake. The liquid of the acrylics actually dissolves and activates the Stabilo pencil, so it acts as like automatic shading. Some people find this very intimidating and they don't like the results that they get, in which case I just highly recommend not using a Stabilo all pencil because they have a lot of personality and they like to move around. You can see that where I just erased the back of her hair. It just comes away, but then the wet wipe also activates the Stabilo that's back there. So it's like you have to kind of balance its superpowers. It can be very powerful. I forgot her ear, so I'm just adding in her ear the same way I did the other ones. And this is white gesso that I'm applying to kind of punch up the areas of her eyes. Now, I wasn't sure about the effects that we were going to go in her eyes, so I did a very light layer with just gesso just to kind of like try it on for size, because again, it fades away. I could paint over it at this time. I haven't done any sealant layers, so everything right now is just paint. So I can paint on top if I made a mistake. I can add gesso if I need to make a correction. So right now, like all the white parts are all gesso. Now, you're seeing the red lips and you're saying, Karen, wait, you told me earlier that we shouldn't do red unless you're going to put it in the background. But in this painting, I'm using it specifically to pack a big old punch. And I want it to be alarming. And I want you to go, whoa, look at those red lips as they stick out. So I'm purposefully keeping it out of the background so that it can like pack the proper punch. Now this is where the magic happens for me. This is Mod Podge. There's a lot of alternatives to sealants that you can use in your mixed media projects. This one is just fun and accessible, and I buy it by the gallon, so I have a ton of it, and it activates all the Stabilos. So you just have to be careful. I change out my brushes a lot because a lot of it gets activated over and over. And then I like to doodle with my Pitt pens over it because it's a nice, smooth, glossy layer. Again, please just go to YouTube and search Karen Campbell Hamburger Method if you're interested in learning my layering process for mixed media projects. It's a ton of fun and it gives you insanely awesome results. This is the Pitt pens that I'm doodling on. And again, just fine-tuning everything. You can also blend with your Pitt pens at this point because the India ink that lays down is super slippery on top of the sealant surface. It was super scary doing her eyes like this. I was mimicking the eyes that were in the reference photo, and I still don't know how I feel about it, but I felt brave and it was fun, and I liked how they really like shot off the page. Now, I end up finishing this with doing gesso around everything. This last step, I think, is really optional. I wanted to demonstrate to my Mixed Media Society students that it's an option. If you want to pack a bigger punch, you can go in with gesso and kind of like really make things stand out. I don't think I needed to do it. I liked it before too, but I love, love, love putting myself out there, being a guinea pig, trying things for the love of my students. So if I make a mistake or make a decision that doesn't work out, I would much rather be a guinea pig and have it fail while I am doing the art rather than telling my student to go do something and then having it not work out okay. So I'm applying just gesso everywhere and just really blending it out to really pack a punch, make the snake come forward, make her face stand out against the background. This is completely optional, but I just like to illustrate again, and I love being a guinea pig, showing the possibilities for things so you can maybe explore something, if not for this project, then maybe one at the end. So I hope to see you next week where we will be doing this cool, cute little kind of fashion figure as our foreground using scrapbooking paper again. And I will see you on YouTube in 1 week. I will see you there. Thanks for watching.